Yo. Ladies and gentlemen, if you had joined our community gathering on Saturday, where we analyzed the whole faith versus the house situation, you would recall an analysis I gave about how the house was divided as at last week. I'd mentioned that probably because of intimidation, probably because of envy, or for whatever reason best known to those housemates, obviously or non-obviously, it was glaring that there were two different kinds of sentiments towards faith in the house. There were those set of housemates who just decided that, okay, by virtue of the majority of the house not being on good terms with faith, that they too will join the bandwagon. And then there were also those set of housemates who chose to be neutral in that whole situation. And sadly, it was only just one housemate that was in that category. And that person is Dede. Chose to be completely neutral and indifferent. She doesn't want to show that she hates the guy, neither does she want to show that she likes the guy. But if there's one thing that she would do, it's her just mingling with every and anybody. She would spend as much time that she can spend with Faith or the rest of the house. And then we also talked about Zita, one of Faith's very good friend that has suddenly turned foe. We talked about how she had suddenly decided to join the bandwagon, the hate campaign in the house against Faith. So, during our YouTube conversation, during our community gathering, we had done a very elaborate analysis of this entire situation. Now, fast forward to last night after the live eviction show. There had been a conversation between Faith and Kola. Dede was right there, sat there. And what we had discussed on Saturday, that was exactly what Faith was discussing with Kola. And ladies and gentlemen, that conversation stands to be one of the most frustrating conversation of last week. Because as I put out the tweet, as I said on my tweet, Faith made a very huge mistake. We do not know who called for that conversation. Yeah, because the camera has just panned to them, halfway through the conversation. But I just felt like Faith initially made a huge mistake by even allowing that conversation to happen in the first place. But it's also a good thing, yeah, because you see, the thing about conversations in Big Brother's house is it tends to expose a lot. It reveals a lot and it exposes a lot, whether we like it or yes, yeah. So, for that conversation between Faith and Kola, with Dede sat there as a neutral party, or probably a not so neutral party, because her facial expressions was giving away a lot of things, yeah. But as I was saying, listening to that conversation, it was so exhausting and frustrating. Why? Because it felt like everything Faith was saying was like water dropping on hard rock. Kola's sense of reasoning was blocked to whatever Faith was saying. Everything Faith was saying was met by an attack from Kola, like a sudden rebuttal. It was so frustrating that everything Faith was trying to explain about his friendship with Zita, Kola just constantly was attacking, antagonizing, and also defending Zita. And it was very obvious that he wasn't paying attention to anything that Faith was saying. If you listened to the progression of the conversation, he wasn't paying attention to anything Faith was saying. He was standing on, well, after all, you also said things to people. After all, you also said things to people. And guys, it was just really frustrating. So we're going to dive into this video and we're going to analyze that whole conversation. All right. We'll look into it. We'll analyze the conversation. All right. And of course, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, aside that conversation, the housemates had been on a gratitude spree. Yeah, they were all grateful for being in top 10. You know, a lot of them were quite shocked that, oh my God, how did they make it to top 10? Yeah. And so they had decided to appreciate and thank the viewers and their supporters and the people voting for them and keeping them in the house. And they all gave very interesting speeches. However, only two stood out for me personally. I do not know about you. Yeah, you probably watched that whole situation and you had multiple speeches that you could really align with. But for me, there were just two speeches that really stood out for me. And on this video, we're going to look at those speeches. We're going to analyze those speeches as briefly as possible. All right. So guys, watch this video to the end. There's just a lot you do not want to miss out on. All right. And of course, I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. All right. And yeah, you're all welcome to my channel. My name is Glory Elijah. This is Frankly Speaking with Glory Elijah, and I call myself the girl with the tea. On Saturday, I had told you all that between Monday or Tuesday, I will announce when we will be having our next community gathering. That's our YouTube live conversation. So today being Monday, the housemates will be having their head of house challenge by 3 p.m. WAT. And I have a very strong feeling that Biggie just might be organizing for them their finalist dinner party. I'm not really sure, but I just feel very strongly about that. So what we will do is tomorrow, Tuesday, by 6 p.m. WAT, we're going to converge here for our finalist live conversation where we get to talk about the top 10 finalists and who we think is a more deserving winner out of all of them and who you people want to vote for, of course. All right. So please make it a date with us. 6 p.m. WAT. Yes, 6 p.m. WAT, Tuesday, tomorrow, Tuesday. Do not miss out. There's a lot to unpack. All right. Now, all of that said, let's dive right into the details of this video. Now, before we get into the conversation, let me quickly point out a moment that had happened right after the live eviction show. So it was between Kola and Imisi. They were in the dressing area of the house. And of course, Kola was still shocked. This guy had let out a wild scream. Yes, immediately after Ebuka was off their screens. Kola was shocked. But it was also very interesting that aside his shock at him personally making it to top 10, it was also shocked and dumbfounded that Faith equally made it to top 10. So it was telling Imisi that Faith is here. Faith made top 10. He was shocked. And Imisi was telling him, don't talk about him, don't talk about him, don't mention his name. Now, you see here, Imisi is smart. Yeah. She understands that when you talk about people, they gain more relevance on the outside, especially if you have nothing good to say about those people. Now, in the earliest parts of the season, she used to yap her mouth a lot about Faith, her sworn enemy in the house. But of recent, she's been hiding to talk about Faith. When she wants to talk about him, I mean, you know that you can't hide in Big Brother's house because there are cameras everywhere, right? But when she wants to talk about him, she does it sneakily. She doesn't want to do it boldly, you know, so people don't look at her and say, oh, this girl, is this how you are? No, you know, so she doesn't want to do that. So she was telling Kola, don't talk about him. Now, there was something else she said. I did not hear it because there was some sort of noise around the house. So, you know, their voice was sort of getting engulfed in all of that noise. But guys, Kola was quite shocked. And there were also other housemates that were kind of surprised that Faith made top 10, especially because the likes of Rude Boy and Mide got evicted that same yesterday. And speaking of Mide, ladies and gentlemen, it was funny for a lot of people on the outside, that she was the first to leave the house last night, because suddenly this week 9, for whatever reason, Mide had suddenly become the maybe number 1 or number 2 antagonist against Faith. For every given opportunity in an altercation or in a gathering where housemates are sat, talking about this guy, Mide's voice is either the loudest or her tone is either the sharpest. And it's been quite interesting because when you think about it, these two had a very good rapport on Monday, no, not just morning, but Monday. So one would have thought that they would have had a good relationship, just as Faith has been able to reach an understanding with Dede. But that was not to be the case, because just for no reason, or let's say for whatever reason, Mide just started antagonizing Faith, just like that. And she had made a lot of statements about Nigerians will not like Faith. So Faith is going to be going home on Sunday. That Faith was not going to be in the house, was going to be evicted. But then guess what? She was the first to be evicted from the house. Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyways, fast forward to the conversation between Faith and Kola. As I mentioned before, we do not know who called for the conversation, all right? So, picking up from where the cameras got to them, it was Faith explaining to Kola some vile things that Zita had said about his many wins in the house. And it had triggered him, because for him, how dare she? He said they had told her that, no, when it comes to my wins, you do not have any right to mix those comments about them, because when you compare yourself to me, I have worked hard for my wins. You, most of the time you win something, it's been handed over to you. So how dare you say such things about my wins? And Kola's reply to that was, well, it's grace. You can't talk about grace like that. And Faith said, well, that is exactly his point, that Zita has that grace to receive certain wins freely. That, for instance, on 2 different occasions, she had been made games master in the arena, meaning she does not really have to work, extra hard for the win. And that's a fact, because when you're a games master in Big Brother's house, you're not doing the brain work. You're not doing all the, rigorous activities for that particular sponsored task. But you are automatically a winner, alongside any of the teams that win. So your own is just to coordinate the games with Big Brother there as well, coordinating the game. So you are just like an assistant Big Brother at that point in time. You do not have to do all the physical and mental work that is needed to win that particular challenge. So that was what Faith was explaining to Kola. So Faith was saying that is what he's saying, that Zita, yes, she has grace, but he has had to work extra hard for everything he has won in that house. So her now saying the meanest things to him, it just did not make sense. He does not understand how Zita, who used to be very cool with him, suddenly started antagonizing him. He had pointed out a scenario on, was it Thursday? He said on Thursday, during that whole wager banter between himself and the entire house, that he had turned and he had seen Zita in one corner, smirking at him and laughing at him, with someone else. And that had really broken his heart, because it got him wondering, like, where did we fall out? What happened? What exactly went wrong? That Zita has said so many mean things to him, it just doesn't understand why. Now, Kola was defending Zita, of course, in that situation, because, of course, Kola and Zita, they are friends, right? And, of course, Kola has a personal vendetta against Faith. I mean, for the weirdest reason, suddenly, Kola is also one of the chief what's it called, chief antagonist against Faith in the house. So most of the time now, if Kola is not having conversations with Dede, Kola is in conversations with some other housemate about how terrible of a person Faith is. So I wasn't particularly surprised looking at the way he was antagonizing Faith in that conversation, or even going all out to defend the wrongs that Zita had done to Faith. So as I was saying, when Faith had mentioned that Zita had said so many mean things to him, Kola too had fired back, saying that, oh, but you too, you said so many mean things about other people. And Faith was like, I do not say mean things about people behind their back. If I have anything to say, I say it to your face. Now, that was the point that Kola had said that, one of the mean things you said to Zita is that, oh, when she was head of house, she was not using her sense. Now, Kola kept on repeating that. How can you tell somebody that they don't have sense? How can you tell somebody that when they were head of house, they were not using their sense? Who does that? Who does that? So Kola kept on repeating it and emphasizing on it. And it was very obvious what he was trying to do. Now, Faith was explaining, in fact, was trying to explain to Kola that, well, yes, he had actually said that to Zita, but there was a context to it. Kola was not willing or ready to listen to that context. For him, why would you say such a thing to someone? Then he had thrown a statement at Faith that, oh, for someone that is this small, you have a big mouth. I said, oh, wow. Okay, interesting. And then he said, oh, that when people look at Faith and they listen to him, they would think it's one person that is of K-Bobo size that is throwing all those big words here and there. But when you see Faith and you listen to the things that comes out of his mouth, it's quite shocking. How would you tell someone that they're not using their sense when they were head of house? Now, Faith kept on trying to explain, but Kola was not willing or ready to pay attention. For Kola, Faith is mean. Faith said such a horrible thing about Zita to Zita. That is that. So Faith was able to throw in an explanation, which Kola still wasn't listening to, right? Now, according to Faith, there was a context. They had had a conversation, and most of the time, Zita is always comparing herself to people. That Zita was comparing herself to a particular female, and she knows that that upset him because he has always told her that, look, you're an exceptional human. Stop comparing yourself to people. So Zita had asked for his opinion about something, probably ahead of house reign, and that was where he had told her that she was not using her sense when she was head of house. He said they had actually apologized to her. But then again, one thing people do not understand is there is a way his friendship is with Zita. Zita says the meanest and the most horrible things to him as well. And sometimes, she could be going off and talking to him and saying things to him, and then sometimes she will now pause and apologize to him. So it's a two-way street. It's not like he just sits down and gets a kick out of diminishing Zita's light or saying the worst things to Zita. No, that is the way their friendship is. They are brutally honest with each other. That is how it is. So it's not like he just goes ahead to just curse her out or says nasty things to her. That there are contexts to these things. That was what Faith was explaining. It was very, guys, I was listening and I was hearing it loud and clear. That was what he was explaining. But Kola was not listening. Kola kept on emphasizing on, how can you say somebody does not have sense? How can you say that? And you see, it was quite frustrating because Dede was sat there. It was very obvious that Dede either understood what Faith was trying to say, but just chose to be quiet. And then the faces that she was making when Faith was explaining himself about certain things, it was just very disappointing. But then, can you blame her? No. She wants to be a neutral body. Now, here's the part that kind of offended me. Kola had gone ahead to question Faith's upbringing. He said, oh, sorry, but I want to ask. The way people talk sometimes, it makes you wonder if that is how their parents spoke to him. Was not asking Faith, is this how your dad talks to you? Oh, is this how your mom talks to you? Oh, is this how you are in your family? I was just asking things about Faith's family, which was quite wrong. And the reason he was doing that is because, remember, yesterday, these housemates had their family, friends, and loved ones come to reunite with them and to encourage them. So Kola had spent the most part of yesterday speaking about how wonderful his family is, speaking about how he's from a place of love, how his parents love him, how his parents, they've groomed him and his siblings to be like this, to be like that. You know, just majorly creating this image of the perfect family. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, yes. But him now describing, or rather trying to give a picture of Faith's family and Faith's upbringing because of a disagreement between Faith and Zita. For me, I just felt like, no, that was quite disrespectful. It just does not make sense. And I love the way Faith handled it. It replied to all of Kola's questions that, oh yes, that his mom is a very straightforward person. The mom is a straight talker. If you're messing up on something, his mom will tell you straight up, no, that you're messing up. You're not doing this right. You're messing up. That is how his mom is, and he took after his mom. And Kola made it look like, what kind of upbringing is that? And then he had asked Faith, oh, are you the same with your family? And Faith had said, no, that he's literally different. Oh, he's the black sheep. Dede, I said, oh, you're the black sheep. He said, yes. And Faith now said, oh, you're the only one that keeps dreadlocks. Faith said, yes. Kola now said, oh, no wonder. Automatically creating a stereotype that, oh, he has a brother that keeps dreads as well. So that his brother is the black sheep of the family. I'm like, wow. Wow. And I love the fact that Dede had quickly called him out on that and said, no, don't do stereotypes. I don't like it. Because I said, no, it's not like that. It's just that, you know, he was trying to make it. I'm like, wow. This is insane. This is insane. This is insane. But, you know, I'm just going to look at it from the perspective of the game. Remember, we've said that this is a game of elimination. These housemates will try to bring down who they deem as their biggest threat in the house. The fact that Faith made it to top 10, that Faith is a finalist, it's a huge shocker for not only Kola, but for a lot of the housemates. But for Kola in particular, it was very obvious what Kola was trying to do in that conversation. It was very obvious that he was trying to label and paint Faith as the villain in every situation in the house. It was very obvious that that was exactly what he was trying to do. It was also very obvious that he was gonna likely go on a smear campaign this week against Faith, because everything that Faith was trying to explain in that conversation, Kola was not paying attention. This was the part that really got me in that conversation. Faith had mentioned that up until Zita got evicted from the house, he still doesn't know what exactly is her reason for keeping malice with him. That all of a sudden, out of the blues, she's joining people to say derogatory things about him, smirking at him, making faces and stuff like that. And Kola had said, what did he even say? He said, she had said that when you people were in the arena, she needed her shoes. She was expecting you to give her shoes, but you did not give her her shoes or something like that. Hey, God. Guys, Faith almost lost his mind at that point. Even me listening, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck? And Faith was like, how am I supposed to know that she needed something? That as at Saturday, he wasn't talking to anybody. He was mute. So how was it supposed, like, was it supposed to turn into a spirit to know what was on her mind? If she needed something, why did she not ask? Like, you needed something, you needed your shoes or something, and you were quiet, and you were, like, he said he didn't even notice anything. He was just there. He was just doing his thing. And guys, even to me, it just did not make sense. Because it just felt like Zita wanted so badly to be amongst the cool kids, you know, join the bandwagon, to hate heavily on Faith. And she needed a reason, but she did not have a reason. So she kept on cooking up different stories. And they all know what they're doing. All of them. It's all a game for them. They all know what they're doing. And even Kola that was giving that explanation, God, it was such a disappointment. Because even as Faith was trying to explain himself, Kola was still going on and on about, but you said things about people. And Faith was like, I don't give a fuck about any of you. But Zita is my friend. So if my friend asks for my opinion about something, I'll definitely give my opinion about that thing. And guys, Kola was just going on and on. It was insane. And then Faith had gone out to explain something that Zita had mentioned to him that she had said that, friendship by association could be that, if somebody is something, by virtue of your association with that person, it means you're automatically that thing. So it's now a thing of, just like Tracy had explained to Zita that, when you are on the outside, you see Faith as a monster. But when you're on the inside, when you are friends with Faith, you see the sweet side of Faith. You do not see all of that monstrosities. So Zita probably picked a side and decided, okay, this is what she wants to do. This is the side that she's going to be on. And for him, it just does not even make sense. Because take, for example, on Thursday, before the pool party, Zita had assaulted Rude Boy. That if he wanted to be crazy, like ideas, he could just decide that, okay, fine. Since she is a strong believer of friendship by association, your friend is who you are, he could have easily said, okay, fine, he's not going to be friends with this girl again. Or should he then detach himself from her because of what she did? He said that does not make sense. And even looking at the way she has been judging him harshly, look at what she did to Zita, to Rude Boy. Look at what she did to Rude Boy. She literally assaulted the guy. According to Faith, guys, see, this time around, Faith literally went all out. He said she assaulted that boy. Now, that is like domestic violence. That Rude Boy could literally sue her for that because there is video evidence. So you don't go about saying things about people when you yourself, you're not even perfect. You're not even, you're not even a saint in all regards. And as Faith was explaining all of that, Kola was like trying to shush him up, that he shouldn't say that, he shouldn't say that. I'm like, oh, wow, how convenient. When people are going all out to demonize and villainize Faith, people can open your mouth and say whatever you want to say. But when Faith then decides to reciprocate the gesture, people try to shut him up. You don't want him to talk. Why? Because you feel like he has a big mouth. According to Kola, he talks too much. He shouldn't be talking. He shouldn't be saying certain things. And you see, I'm glad that Faith defended himself because the conversation was ongoing and it became very obvious that Kola was never ever going to see reason with him. And Dede was just going to sit down there mute, making faces, but never speaking truth to power. So Faith got fed up and he said, you know what, I'm shutting down this conversation and I'm done. And then he walked away. I said, very good. Very good. Because this Kola we are seeing, Kola will never, ever speak truth to power. For him, Faith is a huge threat. And there's a possibility that he doesn't really even care about this issue between Faith and Zita. For him, he's probably only leveraging on information available in the house to try to run a smear campaign against his biggest competition in the house, and that is Faith. So for him, it's all about eliminating his threat from the house. So ladies and gentlemen, as I said before at the start of this video, that conversation was very frustrating. It was very exhausting because it was as if Kola was deaf. All the while that Faith was trying to explain his own side himself, it felt like Kola was deaf, like hard rock. So everything Faith was saying was just falling on deaf ears. Yes, it was just very, very annoying and frustrating. But I'm glad that Faith explained himself. Yeah, I'm glad he did explain himself. So ladies and gentlemen, I would love to know what you all think. All right, go ahead and share in the comment section below. I wanted to talk about the housemates gratitude speeches on this video, but this video has become too lengthy. So what I'm going to do is I will talk about it on another video. That video is actually going to be a very, very brief video, right? So I'm going to talk about it on another video. But yeah, that is all for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day and bye.